Alif ek avinashi deva.
Yalimadad, and a very warm welcome to you all. Thank you for joining us on Ginan Insights. My name is Meera Mawani, and I am a board member for Association for the Study of Ginans and lead this Ginan Insights webinar series, which was developed to explore different facets of ginan-granth literature. His Highness the Aga Khan has at various times called it a wonderful tradition and emphasized the importance of preserving this heritage. Through these webinars, we try to have a conversation about past and current areas of research into Ginans and Granths in order to create greater awareness and space for sharing knowledge and inspire people to study this extraordinary legacy of Ginans. The talk will be for approximately an hour and a half. After the talk, we will have time for a brief Q&A session. You can post your questions in the chat box to co-host Imran at any time during or immediately after the talk. We will be recording this session. Thank you. Once again, it gives me great pleasure to introduce Al-waez Pyarali Keshwani to you. As an IAS graduate and the first waez in and teacher education program, Mr. Keshwani completed his advanced Islamic studies from the IIS and a postgraduate diploma in education from London University. He served professionally at Ithreb, India for 17 years in various capacities, such as an Al-waez, department head of higher secondary curriculum, and a CEO. He was a member of the core curriculum committee of the IIS that developed various modules for the IWTP and PTEP vectors under the guidance of Dr. Aziz Ismail. He developed a module called on literature called Traditions of Muslim Devotional Poetry, in which Ginans, Qasidas, and other genres of Muslim poetry in several languages were included. In addition, he also taught this module at IWTP and PTEP programs in London and Dubai for several years. Thereafter, he studied for a master's in Indo-Muslim culture at Harvard University. He served as research consultant for the IIS for a few years, conducting ethnographic research on the rites and rituals of various Muslim communities of South Asian origin, such as the Satmand Khoja Ismailis, Imam Shahis, some of the Bohra communities, Ithna Asharis, Sunnis, and Sufis. He has translated 7 of the IIS publications into Gujarati. Early Shi Thought by Dr. Arzina Lalani, which was co-translated by Dilshad Keshwani, and 6 of the secondary curriculum modules, 2 volumes each of the Muslim Societies and Civilizations, Faith and Practice, Quran and its Interpretations. As an honorary Al-waez and an educator, he has delivered waezes in India, the USA, and Africa. Al-waez Keshwani, a very warm welcome to you. Before I hand over to the Al-waez, a brief about today's webinar on Sī-Ḥarfī. Continuing from the last webinar, where Al-waez Keshwani undertook a textual analysis between Sī-Ḥarfī attributed to Sayyid Aḥmed Shāh and Alifnama by Yari, he also examined Sī-Ḥarfī from the lens of literary criticism and the importance of the creation of meaning by a community, as well as the seamless transition of literary traditions between different cultures of the subcontinent. In today's talk, Al-waez Keshwani will take us through the mystical dimensions from Sī-Ḥarfī and touch upon the 3 themes of cosmology, the discipline of contemplation, and gnosis or marifa, and their interconnectedness with Sufi, Bhakti, and Yogic symbols prevalent in Indian subcontinent at the time. Al-waez Pyarali Keshwani, it is an honor to have you with us today, and I'd like to hand it over to you now.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. Welcome, everybody, and thank you all for being present. I'm looking forward to a very engaging conversation. So it's really not one-way presentation, but I'm also looking for opportunity to learn more as we discuss in the Q&A session. Okay, Yalimat, everybody, and good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever be the time zone that you are. So this is part 2 of Sī-Ḥarfī. We, as Meera explained, in part 1, we looked at several aspects, and fortunately, we have the recording of it on this ASJ's YouTube channel, so one could always look at that if you haven't had chance. But we'll recap few critical points, which will have some bearing in understanding what we are going to discuss today. So quickly we'll go over. Basically, we are looking at a Ginanic treatise, Sī-Ḥarfī. It's a small treatise. It's called Granth, although it has 8 sections, and each section has some 4 to 5 stanzas. And we compared Yari and Sayyid Aḥmed Shāh's text also. So we'll not go into comparison, but we'll focus primarily on Sī-Ḥarfī, the current edition that is used by the community. So meaning, if you recall, Sī-Ḥarfī, C means 30 and Ḥarfī is letters. So it's a acrostic poem. And normally Arabic has 28 letters, but 2 letters are added, Lam, Alif and Hamza, to make it 30. So Sī-Ḥarfī is an acrostic poem which is composed on each letter. So each stanza would begin with one of the letters, the way they are arranged. Sometimes these letters are arranged sequentially, or sometimes they are arranged in a way that they would form a sentence or a word. Let's look at the specifics. Say, for example, one of the section of Sī-Ḥarfī of Ahmed Shah. So this is the first letter, Alif. So the first letter, if you see Alif, Ek. So there's alliteration, A. Then Be is the second letter. Then Be, Bin, Jibya, Be, Bin. Then Te, Tit, Ta, Ta. So likewise, the whole poem would follow that sequence. Say, Sabat, Jim, Jugat. And then there is a refrain, Re Tuhi Mara Sacha Saiya, and a doha or a couplet. And this occurs only in Ahmed Shah's Sī-Ḥarfī. This refrain and the couplet that comes, it's not there in Yari. So basically, we are looking at Ahmed Shah's text. So these letters, when they are arranged sequentially, Ali, Be, Te, Se, Jim, up to Ya, then it is called abecedarian or alif nama. It's a plain arrangement of letters. Sometimes they form a formula or a sentence, as I said. So, for example, they would arrange in a way that if you read vertically the first letters of the poem, then it would read as La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah or something like that. Or if it is an Indian composition, then following the acrostic, then it could be Sri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram. So Sī-Ḥarfī has been a common genre in Indian context and in several languages with different names. But in Ginanic corpus, there's only one example that we have. And basically, that's what attracted me to explore this further. Another aspect that we have touched upon, that when we are looking at acrostic, it is not just the play of words or it's not just mental gymnastic, but there's a serious purpose behind, and that we discussed that about letter symbolism. Because every letter that is used, there is a philosophy behind. And in Ahmed Shah Sī-Ḥarfī, he spells out this way: the Hirde Piyu ko naam likh or akshar sabdoi. He says, inscribe the name of your beloved onto your heart, and then wash off all the other letters. So letters have significance only if they result into the name of your beloved, the name of your murshid. So that is the thrust of using this letter. And then he says, Triso Akshar Kandhar, Ehi Bado Updes. Pay heed to these 30 letters, and this is the biggest of the admonition that I have for you. So letters are used not only as a mechanism to write a poem, but there is a whole purpose of mysticism. And we discussed at length about what those mystical notions are. About authorship also, we had discussed the Ahmed Shah and Yari, but they have very similar composition. And who wrote first, whether Ahmed Shah or Yari, because their dates are confusing and we don't have all the manuscripts, it's hard to conclude who wrote it first. But there's a lot of correspondence. And we looked at the tools of literary criticism. How do we deal with this type of issues? And when we look at a text, there's obviously first an author, some author who has written that, and unfortunately that author may not be around, and there's a theory that's called author is dead. So what do? Then we go to the text, and when we look at the text, that's again a it has gone through several transmissions, and there's a possibility that that text would also might have had its own history, and there are various versions. But now there's a reader who is left here, and he becomes the co-creator, he becomes the co-author along with that. And it is the combination of three angles, three components, author, text, and reader, that contribute to the creation of the meaning. And we'll try to relate how this happens in the various themes of Sī-Ḥarfī. Couple of perspectives that we discussed, which will be very fruitful in today's exploration as well. 2 points I would emphasize here. One was what Dr. Ismail has indicated in comparing literature from two different contexts. He says sometimes there are similarities in that. There is a parallelism. And that is not necessarily because one has borrowed from the other or one has influenced the other. That may have happened, it may not have happened. Sometimes it's very difficult to see any connection between the two, yet they use similar analogy, they use similar point of view, what is at stake here, or what is at play here. He says in their existential reference, they share a deep structure in common. So at an existential level, there is a commonality. What Darul Shaygan, who used to teach us at IIS, a profound philosopher and professor of Indology, he passed away a few years ago, and he used to say that these religions, if you look at their exterior level, they appear different, but if you look at their esoteric level, different religions, they share a common constellation. They are on a same wavelength, and therefore there's a lot of commonality and there's a lot of resonance, and one may say parallelism. And if you are stuck only at the exoteric level, then those differences can lead to diversity and conflicts sometimes. He used to give us an interesting example that if you look at a Purohit of a Hindu religious head, or a Maulvi in Islam, they may not always get along well. But if you take Sant and a Sufi, they are able to dialogue, and they don't have much to quarrel about. And that is because they share a common wavelength. He presented a much more nuanced discussion of it, which we'll discuss a little later, that how one can actually see these equations between the two, or are they equations, or they are only analogous. We'll take few examples and discuss this further. We had some working conclusions. One was that, yes, the text and authorship is disputed, and if community is using, what really determines whether that is part of its, what Meera said, wonderful tradition, the word used by the Imam of the time. So possibly we can look at this way, that for a living community with a living Imam, any text of Ginan, from within or shared heritage, it can become part of the wonderful tradition, provided it conveys the essence of the tariqah and is approved for the time. So this is a working hypothesis I presented, that whether to use that text or not, how is it being determined? Now, what happens if the text doesn't gel with the essence, or it's not part of the use? Then do we carpet or do we throw away? No. There's always a possibility to study that and applying those academic standards, and which we will try to do in our present presentation, that we will not only look from a normative, from a community's perspective, but also look at the text very critically, and also engage it with the sciences of the time. And then what will happen, that will perhaps enrich our understanding of the evolving nature of the tradition itself. And another aspect that we could keep in mind is that this can continue to serve as a product and a source of spiritual inspiration. And when community uses or when one engages with the text, the whole idea is not only just to read it, but at a theoretical level, but how does it enrich us? How does it enrich us intellectually, emotionally, spiritually? And Sī-Ḥarfī is one such example which we'll explore today. Now, approaching any literature or poetry, there are two possible methods, and both have pros and cons. One method would be that we take a text and read it, which is what sometimes called inductive method, that you read line by line, word by word, and you go on deconstructing and try and understand. It's a detailed study of it, and that could be very time consuming. It's worthwhile, and that is how it should be. But we don't always have time, right? We have only 1.5 hours now, and we have to cover a lot of ground. So it's not always possible. Maybe the poet wrote it not laying out any theory before writing. It's the spontaneous expression of his thoughts or his experience. So that's how the text is written. So inductive would allow you to perhaps approach it the way it was written. There's another method which is called deductive, and that's where you pick up the themes or some topics from it, which is perhaps not very natural to the poet who wrote it spontaneously. Are you able to are you able to hear me, Meera?
Yes, we are able to hear
Yeah.
you, sir.
Okay. Sorry for that. There was some disturbance. So first method is ideal, but it's time consuming. The second method is deductive, that is thematic, and that's what we are adapting today, but not necessarily only thematic. The cons of this method is we need to remember, because there is a possibility we may superimpose, because poet did not outline the themes first and then write a poem. We don't know what was going on in the poet's mind, but there's a debate, and particularly if you have read Dr. Ismail's wonderful work on Scent of Sandalwood, he takes this issue quite head on, and of course he says that this deductive method is rather misguided, because then what happens, we try to read our doctrines into it, we try to read our rituals into it, and that's perhaps was not the primary purpose of the piece and its composers to start with, and that could result into really artificial engagement with that, and that's very true. But nevertheless, thematic approach has a positive of it, and that is it gives us a handle, it gives us a entry point, it gives us some way of accessing that, because if you want to study, say, the Quran, you could read ayat after ayat or read any piece of literature, but that's always not possible. And if you want to just get a summary of it or get some sense of it, then this thematic approach might help. Like we have the major themes of the Quran by Fazlur Rahman. Similarly, we study Ginans thematically. And if we take Dr. Ismail's caution to mind, that we don't superimpose, then I believe that perhaps both these methods are not necessarily mutually exclusive, and one could combine the two, and we have best of the both the worlds. Let's try and see what we can achieve. Few more perspectives that I would like to discuss before plunging into the poem itself. That when we study a scientific text and when we study a religious text, we need to distinguish their languages, because their motives are different, even the methods would be different. So these two are like two language games, or two games. Wittgenstein, a philosopher, outlines, he explains it well, that the each game has its own rule. We play cricket with the rules of cricket, soccer with the rules of soccer, carom board with the indoor games with the rules of those indoor games. We don't apply rules of one game to the other. So it's very important to keep that in mind, that what is the nature of the text that we are dealing with. So if you are looking at, say, cosmology now as one of the themes, so are we looking at cosmology, meaning the study of the cosmos, how did it come into existence, what is really the whole phenomenon? So are we studying this based on a religious text, or are we studying it based on a scientific text? Both will have different language, different methods, and they may even contradict with one another. Let me give an example. Rumi reflects on nature, a profound description. Especially he is relating to the scenario in Iran during spring. And he says, these beautiful birds, they are making, they're singing in Iran. He gives example of two birds. One bird is singing luck, 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 no, because that's the sound that bird makes. And another bird is, sound is coo, coo, coo. Now, Rumi says, you know what these two birds are saying? It says the first bird who is saying luck, luck means yours. In Arabic means laka, means to you. It says the bird is saying Alhamdulillah, Al Mulkulaka. Praise be to you, O God. And mulk, the ownership, the reign, the empire, everything belongs to you. So now bird is saying Alhamdulillah, Al Mulkulaka. Or another is saying Ku Ku. Rumi says actually that bird is singing and crying. Kujas, Kujas, Kujas. Where are you? Where are you? Bird is actually searching for its beloved, and it's crying in search of the master or the beloved. So now Rumi has a particular optic with which he is interpreting the sounds of the singing of the birds. Now, if an ornithologist or a specialist bird study, he may have a very different explanation of that, of all the sounds. He may have very scientific explanation, musical explanation of it. Let me give you an Indianized version of this particular phenomenon on a lighter note. It is said that this Chandulal and Mullah Nasruddin, they left on a morning walk, and just as Rumi heard the birds, these two guys, they hear a bird singing. So Chandulal says, "See how religious this bird is. कितनी धार्मिक ये पंछी है." And Mullah Nasruddin says, "What did you hear?" He says, this bird is saying Ram, Sitaram, Ram, Sitaram. So Mullah Nasruddin says, no, 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 you are hearing it wrong. Because you are Hindu, you are this, that. But Chandulal asked him, what do you hear? He said, I hear it say, Allah, Muhammad, Allah, Muhammad. And they both had some discussion, quarrel. And they decided, no, let's ask a third person. Because we both can't be right. We both can't be wrong. Only word is the same, and we are all hearing clearly. But they were not actually focusing that when we are hearing, there's mind behind it, and that's the filter through which you hear. So another third person passes by, and they ask him, "Can you hear this bird closely and tell us what this bird is saying?" And that gentleman said, he put his ears and keenly listened to the bird and said, "Oh yeah, I can hear it very clearly. Aloo, pyaz, adrak, aloo, pyaz, adrak," meaning potato, onion, and the ginger. And they were shocked. "Is that what you hear? What is your profession? What are you doing?" And he says, "I'm a vegetable vendor, so I deal with vegetables. So I'm hearing this very clearly." Now, what this story conveys to us is that there is a reality, but that reality is understood. It's filtered through our culture, through our beliefs. And that is what we need to keep in mind, that when we are looking at a scientific text or when we are looking at a religious text, there is a different purpose, there is a different motive, and it should not be reduced to a scientific text if you are looking at the religious text. Say, for example, we look at the story of creation. In different religions, there are different versions of the same creation. We know the story of Adam. When Adam was created, there are different narrations of it. We may relate to that story as we go along. Let's look at the first part and get into the poem itself. Brahma sohang satchit anand maram ohang jittit bhayanand alag apar so agam agochar sohi Allah apohi bhitar. He I am Brahman. Brahm means absolute reality. That is the underlying concept in religious scriptures of Hinduism, in Vedas and Upanishads. So Brahman means absolute reality, what in Islamic context we call Allah. So there's only Brahman, the absolute reality, which is existence, consciousness, and bliss. The attributes of that Brahman are that anything that exists, it is all pervading, it is all Brahman, whether as a physical existence or as a consciousness or even as a bliss, Anand. So all these are the attributes of Brahman, and Ahmed Shah is saying, Brahm Sohang, he I am. He is equating himself to that Brahman. So he is now opening at a very highest level of his own experience, that I am Brahman. Aham Brahmasmi, I am Brahman. So I am that absolute reality, and it echoes what we hear in Islamic context in Sufism, Mansur al-Allah saying, Anal Haq, I am the truth. Brahma Sohang Satchit Anand, Maram Ohang Jit Tit Bhayanand. Maram means essence. Ohang is the creative word, or Om, creative command. Jit Tit means everywhere. Bhayanand is existing. So it's all pervading. So Brahman is all pervading. Now from Brahman comes the creative command. As in Islam we say in the Quran that when Allah wishes to create anything, He gives a command, kun, iza aradallahu shay'an. Whenever God intends or wills or anything, He says kun, and the result is fayakun. Similar concept here is that Brahman has issued out Ohang, that is the creative command, and the secret or maram of it is all pervading. So second layer of existence or cosmology is, it starts with Brahman. Brahman has issued Ohang, that is the creative word. Alak apar so agam agochar sohi Allah apohi bhitar. Now these are the transcendent characteristics or attributes of Allah. Alak means that you cannot, you cannot bring into your vision. Alak apar is infinite. So agam, you cannot grasp. Agochar, you cannot even see it. Sohi Allah apohi bhitar. That same Allah who is transcendent, that Brahman which is above you all, is immanent in you. So there are two aspects of the ultimate reality. One is transcendent and other is immanent. Sabghat Swami Maro Bharpur Betha, Tame Gafal Durma Dekho, no? That Swami, my Lord, is Bharpur, fully in you. So the one that is above and beyond is there inside you. The Quran says so in so many different ways that God, we created you, and we can hear what your nafs even whispers, because Allah is so within you. And Quran then says, Nahnu akrab min hablal warid. We are closer to you than your jugular vein. This is the immanent part, the transcendent and the immanent part. We'll do little more analysis of these terminologies. We said Brahman is absolute reality. I'm trying to recap what went into the first line. Brahm and Brahma, there are two different terminologies, very similar sounding. Brahma is actually the three aspects of, one of the three aspects of Brahman, Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiv. Brahma is responsible for creation, Vishnu is the operator who takes the avatara, and Shiva is the destroyer and generator, operator, destroyer, popularly sometimes called as God. But these are the three aspects of the same Brahman. So Brahman is different from Brahma. Soham, we looked at Soham or Saham, meaning that he, I am, Aham Brahmasmi. Now, these are rooted in Vedas, and there are and Upanishads, and there are several commentaries on this explaining this notion of one reality. That there is no two realities, there are no two beings, there's only one being, and it is called Advaita. Dvait means two, Advait means not two, not, that is monism, one reality. Shankaracharya, who elaborated on this concept, he says you are not able to understand this as one reality because there's the veil of ignorance. And the way to remove that veil of ignorance so that you come to know that there is only one reality is Gnan Marg, there is path of knowledge. We have similar concept propounded by Ibn Arabi, which is called Wahdatul Wujud. There is only one reality, mono-reality. There is monism. Now, there are some problems with this theory. Beautiful, but people saw some inherent difficulties in it. What is that? That, human being, the way they are, we naturally, especially when we are into difficulty or when we want to express something, we need for other being, need for a higher power, and we want to make love, we want to express our devotion. And if devotion has to be expressed, then it would need two entities. Shankara says there is only one reality. The difficulty is then there is no possibility of worshipping, there's no possibility of devotion, there's no possibility of seeking help from the higher being, because he would say, no, everything is false. You are seeing this as two, Atma and Paramatma, separate, because there is a avaran, or there is a veil of Maya, ignorance. If that ignorance is dropped, then you will see it's only one reality. Then you will not need to even worship. Ape Sahib ne Ape Puja. You are the Sahib and you are the Puja. You are the master and you are the worship. And Bharam Dehi Mahe Roga. Tasu Dekhe Duja Loga. No, Sī-Ḥarfī integrates this idea of Shankaraj and says that in you, this ignorance is there, and therefore you are looking at this as two. But then, the beauty of this Sant literature or the Ginanic literature, they try to integrate all these trends. So there is a Bhakti Marg, which later on came into force, and the Gnan Marg. Also, there is Yoga Marg. So there's a combination of all that. Now, Ramanujacharya was another philosopher who actually opposed Advaita of Shankaracharya, who was saying one reality, and he said no, there is actually monism, but it's a very qualified monism. How is it qualified? He used the word vishishta. In a very qualified way, it is one. He wanted to make a provision that Bhakti is able to love, Bhakti is able to express devotion. You have his darshan, you have his didar, and that can happen only, it is always maintained that Atma is Atma, the soul is soul, and the Supreme is always Supreme. So whether in this world or in the hereafter, there's always going to be a difference, and you can therefore continue making that relationship, because relationship would entail two people or two entities. Of course, there's further discussion on this, that who has the onus? Is Lord responsible or Bhakt responsible if to make that relationship? Is Bhakt capable of loving God, or is it Lord's grace that makes Bhakt possible to love? So, two interesting examples were put forth. Monkey versus cat theory, monkey hole theory or cat hole theory. What happens? A monkey will carry its young one, uh, while jumping from one tree to the another. What happens? The young one has to cling to the chest of the mother. The responsibility is on the mother, on the child, rather young one, that it has to cling to the mother. Whereas what happens in the cat, that cat will carry its kitten in its own teeth, and that teeth, which is so sharp, when it carries its own young one, the teeth are become they are not like a shoe or like a, they are not pricking, but they are like a flower. So that's the relationship that in the monkey hole theory, you have to keep the owners, the bhakt has to keep the owners, whereas in the cat hole theory, it is the cat who takes care of you, the murshid who takes care of you. You have to only just submit and you are protected. And it says that if the cat has to carry a rat in the same teeth, it will have a very different function. So Jnana Marg resulted or evolved into the Bhakti Marg. And these are not just one after the other, but these are various sort of im- dispositions of individuals, and that's what they try to focus on. Let's go a little further in the Sī-Ḥarfī, the second stanza. अलख निरंजन नाम धराया ओहं सब सो आप कराया चित शक्ति को पैदा कीता ओहं अंशो आनंदिता. So this ineffable and immaculate transcendent God, he originated the word ohang, that is what we discussed about kun. Chit Shakti ko paida kita. He created Chit and Shakti. Chit is consciousness and Shakti is power, energy. And various interpretations are there of Chit and Shakti. One of the interpretation given is that if you look at the cosmology, then there is one aspect of it is creation. Another aspect is man himself. So man has, from a yogic science, it has physical body, but man has a subtle body, a spiritual body as well. And in that, there are two poles. One is called the base, which is at the base of the spine, and then the other end is called the skull. So these are the two poles. One is called Chit, which is head, and Shakti is the energy or the Kundalini Shakti or serpent power, or rather a dormant energy that is seated at the base of the spine. The whole purpose of yoga is that to raise that Shakti, they raise that Kundalini to meet with the Chit, meet with the skull, and there are various chakras on the way. So we are still in the cosmology of creation through Ohang, and Ohang has created this Chit and Shakti. Some more elaboration on Oham, that it's a creative command. Messiah Eliot writes, this mystical syllable Om, spelled as O-M or A-U-M, Om, again, very interesting point. If you look at the words in English language, at least, describing the attributes of Allah, we say omnipresent, omniscient, so omnipotent. These words have om in the beginning. So some people have said that this is a very important mystical syllable which pervades whenever you describe the attributes of Allah. Here, Eliade says the mystical syllable Om incarnates the mystical essence of the cosmos. So Om is actually a theophany, that is the manifestation. The Brahman is expressing itself through Om. And this Om has been picked up by different philosophers from Islam, from Hinduism in interesting ways. Let's read the next stanza and then we'll come back to Om again in this. कुदरत उनकी कोई पार न पावे अनंत रचना सो आप दिखावे ओहंग निरंजन एक वृक्ष कीता उनको डाली दो जो दीता. कुदरत उनकी कोई पार न पावे. We are discussing the Oham. And next line is the power of that Ohang koi par na paave. It's unfathomable. It is, none can comprehend it. Anant rachna so aap dikhave. This Ohang, which is the mystical syllable or the creative command, kun, is actually creating rachnas, that is creation, and which are anant. Anant means endless. So endless creation is coming forth. That is the epiphany. That is the manifestation of Brahman. Ohang Niranjan ek rukshaj kita. Now we are, you have to remember, we are into religious text. It is not a scientific description of cosmos, but the religious description, which is a symbolic description. Ohang, this Om, Niranjan, which is immaculate, ek vrukshaj kita, it made a tree now. And then to that tree, it gave 2 branches. So what is the sequence? Ek Nur Muhammad Mustafa, Duja Nur Ali Murtaza, Mai Fatima bhi unke bele, Hasan Hussain us Nur mahe kele. So now the creation is, in this creation, something else is introduced. What is introduced here from the Shia perspective or from the Ismaili point of view? Panchtan Park has a big play in the cosmos, in the cosmological understanding. So a Sufi or a saint establishes the cosmic understanding of path, because it is that path will allow him to return back. No, we say inna lillahi wa inna ilaihi rajiun. So from God we have come, and unto him is our return. So that is cosmology. That is how we have come about. And that path is created or constructed in a way where important concepts or theological beliefs are interjected. In this Sī-Ḥarfī, Ahmed Shah says that Ohang, Brahman, then Ohang, and Ohang is now creating a tree. Now, tree is a very important symbolism. There's a whole subject of tree symbolism we can discuss from religious point of view. In several, if you look at the Quran, the tree symbolism, if you look at the Upanishads. So here, Ahmed Shah is saying that Brahman created Ohang, Ohang created a tree, and tree has Panchtanpa. If you look at the Upanishads, it says that Brahman created a tree. The tree symbolism is there in Upanishads. But the tree is inverted tree. Its roots are in the heaven, and then branches are all spread out here. So this was a very important symbol, tree symbolism, that was adopted by poets. Say, for example, we have pre-cosmic existence of prophet and Panchtan Park in and Shia and Sufi literature. In Sufism, prophet is believed to have said, "I was prophet while as was between water and clay." So what's presented here? That prophet had a physical being, but his existence, or what is called Muhammadan reality or Hakika Muhammadiya, is something that pre-existed the creation. Uh, One very popular story in Shi context, we hear that when Adam was created, and Adam has conversation with Allah, and he asks a question that, "Have you created anybody before me?" And then Allah says, "No, you are my first creation." So Adam asks that, "What do I see these 5 entities. Who are they?" And then Allah says, "They are from me. They are there to manifest, come onto the earth to guide you." So what is happening here? The hidayah, the notion of hidayah and the institution of hidayah is situated, is placed in a pre-cosmic context. Even before the creation, that Allah has made arrangement for, as it were, for hidayah to come. There's a Sufi poet, Sayyid Manjan. He takes this pre-cosmic existence of prophet in his classic poem called Madhumalati, and he says Muhammad is the root of the cosmic tree, and the whole universe is branched. So this idea of interjecting the belief part, the doctrine part, and also using the symbolism of tree is very interesting here. Aisa Ohang Ape Samrat. Now we're still into the first part of the Sī-Ḥarfī, which is not there in Yari, but in Ahmed Shah. Aisa Ohang Ape Samrat. Sarve Vyapak Bhujo Jit Tit. So such Ohang, that is the creative command, or Om, is so powerful that it is all pervading. Sadgur Sahib ka Sharana Lije, Ohang Apas ko Sabat Kije. So beautiful here. Everything is now fitting here. Sadgur Sahib ka Sharana Lije means seek refuge in the true master or in your murshid. Why? Because he is the possessor of that Ohang. He is the possessor of that Amra or that command. So Murshid or Sadgur or Panchtan Pak are placed as the embodiment of the Oham. Sadgur Sahib ka Sharana Lije, you take refuge of that master. The result is Ohang Apas ko Sabat Kije. As a result, you will ascertain within yourself that Oham. રે તુહી મારા સાચા સાયા પિયુજી તુહી ઓમકાર અપાજ ભજ અને તજ અભિમાન કલેશ રે ત્રિશો અક્ષર કાન ધર એહી બડો ઉપદેશ રે. Now Oham, Brahman to Oham, which is manifesting as Panchtanpak or Sadgur, and Sadgur is giving you Ohankar. He is giving you a mystical syllable. So this Ohankar refers to the mantra or the word that master gives you. The Isme Azam, the Murshid gives you. Apar Bhaj, you invoke that incessantly or ceaselessly. Ane Taj Abhiman Kaleshre. Now he's situating, the laying down the path. We are getting into the discipline path. So Taj Abhiman Kaleshre, pride and discord be forsaken. So don't fall in trap into. So there's a whole touch of some ethical imperatives that you have to forsake Abhiman and Kalesh. Kalesh means clash. It's basically a clash between people, or also it can be seen as a clash of our own thoughts, on our own being. How mind, when we sit in meditation, we have to deal with the whole notion of controlling our
Ça
thoughts
prend
and
des personnes
concentrating.
qui écoutent. Ouais,
Trisho Akshar Kandhar
ça prend
Ehi
des
Bado
personnes qui
Updesh.
écoutent. Chacun sa façon.
Some disturbance there. Triso Akshar Kandhar, pay heed to all 30 letters, and this is the biggest of my admonitions or greatest. So Oham to Ohankar is basically, sometimes they are taken as the same. Oham means Ohankar. They are not two separate. But the point is that Ohankar is the word that is used for engaging into meditation, into a spiritual path, into ekagrata, as we say, right? Concentrating your mind. Omkara. Now, this word has had a very interesting usage by Sufis and other scholars. We'll touch upon that, few of that. For example, Dara Shikoh, the Mughal prince, he goes to see a lot of similarity between Hinduism and Islam, and he wrote Samudra Sangam or Majmul Bahrain, meeting of the two oceans, to show that there is a lot of correspondence between two religions. And in that, he says this Upanishads begin with Om. Every Upanishad, the slokas begin with Om as the first syllable. And he says Quran also begins with Om. Now that's very strange. Quran begins with not with Om. No, we have Suratul Fatiha as the first. But you see how ingenious his interpretation is. Of course, he had to pay a price for that. He was executed, his brother of Aurangzeb. Now Dara Shikoh, he says Quran begins with Ummul Kitab, that is Suratul Fatiha. And Suratul Fatiha is one of the names of Suratul Fatiha is Ummul Kitab. Ummul Kitab. So this Om, he said, is the beginning of the Quran. Now, one may wonder why is this he's going. It looks too far fetched. One could say that, but there's also a possibility to see that once you come to that level, what Kabir says, no, Lali mere lal ki jit dekhu tit lal. Lali dekhan mein chali to main bhi ho gayi lal. So when I'm seeking the redness of my beloved, I also became red and I also became enlightened. So Lali mere lal ki jit dekhu tit lal. No, Rumi was hearing ku kujas kujas. So it's basically the optic which you are searching, and you are so engaged that then you see a lot of similarities. There was another Sufi who was Shah Abdul Latif. He said, Om is written as Alif Waw Mim. Om, Om. And he has his own interpretation that Alif represents Allah and Mim represents Muhammad. So in Om, he saw the concept of Alif, Allah, and Muhammad. In Ginan, we have Ali and Om as equated. Re tuhi mara sacha sanya piyuji tuhi. Om shabd sacho Ali. So Om is equated with Ali. Ane Om lila anantare. The lila of Om is endless. Om tran akshar siddha. Teno pehlo samjho tantre. So first, grasp the mystery, the significance, the maram, or the secret of this Om, which is 3 letters, and he says it is not only 3 letter, but its letter as written as Ali. Later on, there has been a calligraphic comparison seen between Om and Ali. If you look at this closely, this is Om, and if you imagine that to be an Arabic word calligraphy, then it is Ain Lam Ya. So it is a very interesting way of recasting or rereading the same syllable uh, and then giving a different meaning to it. There's a book by this Pirana offshoot of this Imam Shahi group, and they have published a book which with this Om and Ali to be the same. And this is the lion, or again in that, if you look at the tail, then it has integrated the syllable, mystical syllable Om or Ali into it. So this is basically trying to see that correspondence. Now, this is what I was saying, Lali Mere Lal Ki. Jit dekho tit lal. So once you reach to this level, then you see a lot of correspondence and a lot of similarities. One Ismaili poet wrote, Ek divas evo avse, a day will come, chare alam ek thaine om ali pukar se. This is now modern poetry. And he says, okay, the whole world will become one, and they uh, will invoke Om Ali as one. A day will come when all 4 worlds will call in unison Om Ali. So Om is a Guru mantra. To now summarize, Om is creative command, which we call Amra or Kun in Islamic context, which is manifested as Ulil Amra, or in the personality or in the person of Imam, or a Sadgur, or you call Guru, or you call Murshid, Panchtan Pak, or Nur of Ali. That is the embodiment or manifestation of that Amra. And this Amra is conveyed to the disciples in 2 forms. One is the farmans, or the commands, or the guidance that Imam gives, is his Nur, or his light, is sharing or gracing the murid. And another very personal link that he gives for meditation, which is known as word or Ismi Azam or Bol or Nur. So that's this concept is not alien to Ismailism. It is there in Sufism, it is there in Indian mystical tradition, and all various religions have one or the other form. So this is now basically the conclusion of, say, the cosmology, where we looked at the creation, looked at the situation of the master and the murid, and we'll look at another component which is man. So this will summarize the visually. This is ultimate reality, Allah, and this is the other pole, humankind. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. So these are the concepts that we went through. So there are 3 planes we can imagine. One is the topmost, another is middle, and the bottom. So the bottom one is alam khalq. This is the physical world, and this is the spiritual world. And this terminologies that are used are kun, ohang, or spiritual world, or alam amra, behad. Sī-Ḥarfī uses hai had mein had ki rel, behad ma hai mukti ka khel. It says there are 2 realms. One is limited, that is had, this one, the physical world. है हद में हद की रेल, there is abundance here, but it is limited abundance. Whereas behad ma hai mukti ka khel, the play of liberation or the play of salvation is here in the behad, that is beyond, that is the transcendent world. The realm that connects had and behad is the realm of hidayat, the normative order or hidayah, the manifestation, or Panchtan Pak, Nubuwa, Imama, whatever terminology you may use. So these 2 these 2 realms are quite different from each other. Rumi gives a very interesting example that if you want to, say, go into a sea or go into water, you ride a horse and reach the bank of the river or the sea, and when you reach the bank, you have to get down of that horse, and then you can't take your horse in that ocean, you can't take your horse in that water. If you want to ride on the horse, then you'll have to take a wooden horse. So you ride on the wooden horse, and then you'll be able to swim in that water. Now, after you are returning back to land, then you can't continue possibly on that wooden horse, because people will call you mad. People will call you a child, because child rides on the wooden horse. So again, we are back on the earth, you will have to take on a different vehicle which is appropriate for that. So what he is basically trying to show, that these two realms are different, as their vehicles to convey, to communicate, are different. So poetry becomes one of the symbol or one of the vehicle to convey the spiritual experience a mystic had of the Alam al-Amr. But when he is talking about that experience in Alam al-Khalq, he has to employ poetry, and he has to employ certain symbols, and those symbols may be sometimes very paradoxical. Sī-Ḥarfī uses some paradoxical symbols, and those are part of the tradition which is known as Ulat Vani. Vani means language or speech, Ulat means topsy-turvy. So, for example, Kabir says, Kabir ji ki ulti bani, Barse kambal bhije pani. Kabir says, my language is topsy-turvy. Barse kambal, kambal is turban. The turbans are raining, and water is getting wet. Now, what happens normally? It rains, and then the cloth will become wet. Whereas it says the turbans are raining and the water is getting wet. What he's basically trying to do through this paradox is to show that the experience that is talking about is of a different plane, is of a different world, and therefore its expression is very, very different. We looked at cosmology, one aspect, the creation part. Now, another aspect of the cosmology is man himself. From yogic and from Ginanic perspectives, the concept of man is seen as not only a physical body, but it has a subtle body. I did touch upon the Chit and Shakti, and we looked at the notion that this there's this Kundalini Shakti or major energy reciting here, which is sometimes compared to a snake. So just as snake moves like very speedily, similarly this energy has to be awakened, and that it rises through various channels. There are multiple energy channels in the body, but yoga says there are three principal nadis. One is called Ingla, another is called Pingla, and in between there is a Vankanad, or it is called Brahma Nadi. That is very principal Nadi. So energy could flow either through Ingla or through Pingla or through Vankanad. And whenever this nadis or these veins, or they are not physical veins, mind you, they are metaphorical, because if you dissect a human body, you will not come across this, but they are energy centers, and they are way of explaining that there's a correspondence between what is there in the physical level. There's also a subtle or another level of physiology. So there's a physical physiology, and there's a spiritual or a subtle physiology. And from yogic terminology, they say these are centers. There are 7 centers, and this energy or serpent power, when it rises, it pierces through these centers, and then it meets here at our trikoti, or where the two eyebrows meet, because here the Ingla and Pingla are supposed to meet. And after that, only Vankanad continues to the last chakra, that is Brahmandra. It is sometimes likened to 1,000 petals, as if the whole flower is bloom, and what energy it gives out. You can just visualize this, how energy is flowing, and chakras are pierced through, and finally the idea is that this Shakti has to meet with the Shiv. So it's a marriage of Shiv and Shakti within your being, and that is the purpose of yoga. Yoga is to unite, is to connect. So one interpretation of yoga is that you want to raise this Shakti from here and you connect it or unite it to the chit at the skull level. Various chakras at different levels. Base of the spine is called Muladhara chakra, Swadhisthana, Manipura, Anahata, Vishuddha, Agna, and Sahasrara. These are various chakras. Sī-Ḥarfī doesn't really enumerate all these chakras. It doesn't give names of the chakras. It just says together, Fute chakkar mate sab socha, jalhal dise jagbag jota. When all these chakras are fute, means they are pierced through. When they are broken, it fute chakkar mate sab socha, all perplexities will vanish. Jalhal dise jagmag jota, and you will start experiencing a light. You will see a glittering light. So that is the path. Girbhavali attributed to Pisadadin actually enumerates each chakra and gives the description and it goes into more detailed yogic science. Sī-Ḥarfī, some parts, some lines which relate to the subtle physiology. Vankanad ka rakho sangam. No, unite yourself to Vankanad. As I said, no, there are three nadis, but Vankanad is the principal nadi. Vankanad ka rakho sangam. Keep your unity or keep connected with Vankanad. Fute chakkar mite sab socha. Sī-Ḥarfī doesn't name all this. Now, interestingly, in Indian subcontinent, we have several Sufis also who adapted or who use this yogic terminologies, and they call it lataif. Lutuf is subtle and subtle energy centers. For example, Rushnama is a very interesting work in Hindi, and Athar Abbas Rizvi has studied it extensively, and Rushnama is attributed to actually a Sufi, Chisti Sufi, Abdul Quddus Gangohi, and he brings out the use of all the Sufi and yogic chakras and nadis and all the correspondence. There was a Professor Mir Waliuddin. He's also studied this contemplative discipline according to Sufism and yogic science. In recent our times, Karl Ernst has done extensive study, and he has written on one work which is called Amrut Kund, which is in a Sanskrit work and adapted into Naqshbandiya Sufi order, Shattariyas sub-branch, and it's a very interesting work that has recently come out. Ganga, Jamna, which Saraswati Lave, again the subtle body, that Ganga and Jamna are Ingla and Pingla, which means in between. Saraswati is Vanknad. So try to bring Saraswati in between Ganga Jamna. Incidentally, now this Ida and Pingla is also connected with our breathing. So when we breathe, we don't breathe through both the nostrils. We alternate through each nostrils. And it is said when both the nostrils are functional, are active, that time your Vanknad is active. And that's an opportune time for meditation. But even if one nostril is working, that is good enough. Insofar we are breathing. So meditation is possible in either situation. But the yogi tries to see that he can breathe through both the nostrils, and so that his Vanknad is active. Traveni Tanmahe Karesna. So you actually taking shower in this Traveni, means three rivers meeting at the Brahmandra or this Agna Chakra. Between the two eyebrows. Zaruri Sukhmana Jove. Sī-Ḥarfī says you will essentially see the Sukhmana. You will experience within yourself. Now Nadi ka jane bheva taghar nir bhare sab deva. Now the cosmology and the experience are now intertwined. You will see now Nadi ka jane bheva. You will begin to know the secret of your 9 nadis, which actually are very fundamental to your existence. And if you have really attained the level of figuring out or experiencing all the nadis, then Ahmed Shah says, Taghar Nir Bhare Sab Deva. All the deities will come and become subservient to you. They will fill water at your door, at your home. They imagine a rural situation where water has to be fetched from a far river or from a well, and it's not always handy. You open the tap and you get water. But here, Ahmed Shah says, deities will come and become your servants, and they will fill water at your place once you reach that level. So similar references we find in Brahm Prakash and Saki Mahapat and in some of the Garbis also. This whole yogic notions are there. Now, taking discipline a little further, Meera, you want to do some recitation here?
बेबिन जिभिया समरण करो बेबिन जिभिया समरण करो मन सुले उनकी धून धरो मन सुले उनकी धून धरो पूर्ण ब्रह्मा जहाँ तहाँ पूर्ण ब्रह्म जहाँ तहाँ आप ते अचंपा का कीजे जाप ते अचंपा का कीजे जाप.
Thank you very much. So melodious, so touching. I wish we had more time to hear the full more stanza. But what she recited is Be bin jibiya smaran karo, mansule unki dhunaj dharo. So the path is set out, the discipline, the contemplative way that you utter without using your tongue. Bin jibiya smaran karo. So recall, remember. So when you are engaging in Isme Azam or you are engaging in contemplation, you mansule unki dhunaj dhero. Take it to mind and then get into that invocation or get into that recall or zikr, that is remembrance, but without using your tongue. But before that, there's one line I would like to relate. Sadgur Sai Nirmala Jine Diya Maram Gambhir Re. Ahmad Take Naam Par Sadke Karo Shure Re. So Sadgur is my master, my Maula. He has given me his Nirmala, his pure. And he has given me a very solemn secret. The Isme Azam that he grants me, whether it is mantra or whether it is yantra or tantra, there are three different words. Mantra is a mystical syllable, that is word to be repeated, or that word may be even in a written form, yantra form, and that is what is analogous to what is known as naksh, or you concentrate on that calligraphic written form. So either it could be mantra or tantra, whatever is given to you, it is a maram gambhir, it is a very solemn secret. And Ahmad Shah says, Take naam par sadke karu sharir. I would sacrifice my whole being for that. It is so precious to me. To get that word, I would give away my life. I'll give my whole being. जो तन मन मा है सूरत लगावे, if you were to focus on it, then it says अलख निरंजन घट में पावे. ओंकार अपार भज अने तज अभिमान क्लेश रे, त्रिसो अक्षर कान धर यही बड़ो उपदेश रे. तित वसत सहज कर लीजिए, भजन करता विलंब न कीजिए. जो तन मन मा है सूरत लगावे, तो अलख निरंजन घट में पावे. Invoke that Ohankar ceaselessly and pride and discord be forsaken. To the 30 letters pay careful attention, for this itself is the greatest admonition. Make that reality, meaning the word that has been given to you, natural to your own self. How do you make it natural? Sahaj, by constant engaging, constant regular practice. Brook no delay in devotion. Don't procrastinate. If you have been blessed, if you have been granted, then engage in that devotion, invocation. Bhajan karta vilam na kijiye. He who contemplates within the body and mind attains that ineffable immaculate within itself. You know, there was a sage who was sitting at the bank of the river with the boat there, and he's just sitting, and people came here and asked him, "Why are you sitting here?" He said, "I want to cross that river. I want to go that to that end." Then the person asks that, "Why are you sitting here? There's a boat there. Why didn't you descend into the boat and go there?" He says, "No, I'm just waiting for the river to pass, the river to completely move out." And the man laughs and says that, "Is it possible? This river has been flowing for ages. It will never happen that unless it gets dry. But now the water is flowing. You are waiting. Here is the boat, just right." The sage says, "That's what I'm hearing from you, and that's what I'm telling you, that you have the boat and you have the opportunity, you have the Isme Azam. Descend and use it and go across the shore. Don't procrastinate and wait for it to pass, the time to pass by. Now make that reality natural to you. Natural is sahaj, is a constant practice. Kabir says, "Sahaj sahaj to sab koi kehve, sahaj na paave koi." Everybody wants to attain to that natural ultimate level of experience, but nobody attains to that because you are only talking. Baate prem na paave koi. Just by mere talking, you are not going to get that love. You are not going to gain that grace. You are not going to gain the ultimate goal that you have set out for. So the discipline is basically the path that is laid out. Some more references from Sī-Ḥarfī. Kaf, कुमार्ग कट कर चाल तृष्णा लोभ ने भरन जंजाल, यही आशा तू तजरे प्राणी, सदगुरु बोले अमृत वाणी. Kumarag means evil way, cut kar chal means cut off the evil way. And what is the evil way? Trashna, that is thirst, the greed for the world. Lobh, bharam, janjal. All this greed, you are into it, delusion, into this maya. E asha tu tajre prani, Sadguru bole amrit vani. The Sadgur is talking, giving you nectar-filled preaching. Ehi asha tu tajre prani. O soul, you abandon those kumareg, evil path, trashna, your greed. Interestingly, in a Ginan, Peer says that greed is good, but you should be greedy only when it comes to zikr. When it has to, when you want to do zikr, be greedy to do more. Be greedy to engage more into contemplation. Otherwise, these are the lobe and greed are going to become avran or a veil. Lam lob ninda ne luturai unku chodo to ho bhalai. So ninda is backbiting or maligning people. Unku chodo, abandon those. Then there is your welfare. To howe bhalai. Jibya or langoti rak satsangat mili pad vairag. Jibya is tongue. No, tongue has several connotations. G means it relates to the concept of taste, that you have to control your food, or even tongue, that your speech. So maintain jibya langoti rak is emphasis on brahmacharya. Sat sangat mili pad verak. So live a life of a celibate. But here it says it's a qualified celibacy, that sat sangat mili pad verak. You renounce, but you renounce in the company of sat. Sangat, company of Sat. Sat is Isme Azam, Sat means truth, Sat means existence, Sat means Brahman. So connected to the Brahman, and then you engage in the spiritual pursuit. साबत होकर खोजो दे जुम जुगत बिना जोग न होए बातें प्रेम न पावे कोई. Jugat is again a yukti or sort of method that you use for contemplation. So जुगत बिना जोग न होए. Jog jugatsu lave dhyan sohi jogi ajug parma. Now, this is again a very subtle allusion here that your jug, your word jugat or your ismiasm that you are using has to be jug praman, according to the jug, according to the time. It's echoing this notion of Ibnul Waqt, that you be the children of the time. So that's where the Imam of the time concept comes, that he guides you to the path that is apt for you, that is relevant for you, and that is optimal for you. Mancha vacha karmana, jine na khoji dehere, Ahmad ve nar mood hai, jo gadhe ke sir ke. There's a very interesting verse here, ke search through mind, word, and deed. If you don't do that, then Ahmad Shah says, no, your condition is like a donkey who is adorned with ash. Now, it's a satire on pseudo yogis, because the yogis apply ash on their forehead, which is a very symbolic, significant ritual or significant practice, because it reminds of one of ash is ultimately you are going to be ash, you are going to be on the ground. So there are several ways. There are some sort of they sometimes apply sandalwood or some other lotions, and they are believed to help you in your meditation. But these were the yogis who have been using it. But Ahmad Shah says, if you are just applying it and not actually practicing it from within, then your condition is as if a donkey has been adorned with that ash. Ahmad venar mood hai, jo gadhe ke sir ke, as if a donkey has been adorned with that ash, which is so insignificant. There's another part of the discipline. Toy tayar hui khele khela, नागनाथ पेठे पाताला बांबी उलट सरप को खावे तब मन सहजे समावे. Now, toy is a letter. So with in Hindi we have only one ta sound, whereas in Arabic or Urdu or Farsi there are two t sounds. No, one is te and another is toy. So if you take this toy as a Arabic letter, then tayar won't be written with this toy, this te. But if you write with toy, then it is tayar. Tayar with te means being ready. Whereas here, tayar means a bird. So get into the game as a bird. And then there's a whole interesting symbol connected, that Nagnath Pethe Patala. Nag is the cobra or the snake, is sitting. Pethe means it is situated. Patala means at the bottom. So the bottom is the Muladhara chakra, where this Nagnath or Kundalini power is residing. Now what is happening? Bambi ulat sarap ko khave. Bambi is the place where the snake is residing, or it is the chakra, Muladhara chakra, in which the snake or the Kundalini power is residing. Now, Bambi or the Muladhara chakra is supposed to protect and take care of that energy. But what's happening here? Bambi ulat sarap ko khave. Bambi is actually engulfing the snake. What is happening? The snake is taken. The snake is the representation or the symbol of that whole super power that is lying there idle. So Bambi, that is the chakra, Muladhara chakra, absorbs in it that whole energy. This is Ulatmani. That Bambi is supposed to protect, whereas here Bambi is actually absorbing it into it. Why does it absorb? Because then it has to channel it through the Ida, Pingla, or Sushmana Nadi and reach it to the top chakra. So Bambi Ulat Sarapku Khave. Now, this is an interpretation which is not, we will discuss if there are questions. The traditional description or traditional explanation of this particular verse is very different, which is interesting, but it doesn't really connect with the text itself. But when we read these lines in the context of the larger yogic literature and the Sant literature, the meaning becomes more clear, that it is referring to the rising of the Kundalini, which is absorbed by the chakra, which actually lodges it, and it is absorbed because the purpose is to raise it. No, it is like transforming from one level to the other level. We'll have some one or two symbolism which also talk of that. The Ginan at one point refers to Aisa sadhu je bhariya art. I am seeking such. Sadhu means a saint. But sadhu as a verb, if you read, then sadhu means I am seeking. I'm trying to adopt. Aisa sadhu, I am seeking je bhariya art, which is filled with eight. Now, eight is a very difficult word here. But what does eight mean? But if you look at the yogic context, then eight is a sort of a key, is a readily understandable, applicable word in yoga. One of the application is Astang Yoga, that there are 8 limbs or 8 parts of yogic discipline: yam, niyam, asan, pranayam, dhyan, dharana, samadhi. These are the 8 aspects of yogic discipline. And Ahmed Shah says, Aisa sadhu je bhariya art, I am seeking in this that who is filled with all that 8. I want to have a mastery over all the 8 limbs of the yoga, which were consolidated by Yoga Sutra of Patanjali. Now, what are those eightfold paths? One is yam, which is basically restraint, and they relate to the outer world. You live a non-violence life, you be truthful, non-stealing. So this is all ethical path. Then there's a niyam, second path, the second organ of the discipline, that you lead a disciplined life. And Ahmed Shah says, Shura pura panth ka tajena apni bhan, Ahmed ve nar mard hai jo chadkar mare maidan. So you have to follow that discipline, exercise restraint, follow that discipline regularly. And Ahmed Shah says, Shura pura panth ka, the person who is Shura means brave, pura means completely brave, panth ka on the path, tajena apni bhanare, he is not going to forsake his consciousness, he is not going to lose his sense. In other words, Ahmed venar mard hai, he is the man. Now here mard means it also includes female also, but it's a generic way. So Ahmed says, venar mard hai, they are the real men, jo chadkar mare maidan, those who actually the mount the horse and get victorious, who are able to win the battle. So Ahmed venar mad hai jo chadkar mare maidan. So you need yam and you need to follow niyam. Bhajan karta vilam na kijiye, don't procrastinate. That's the whole sense of urgency. Other paths I enumerated. Asana is basically you take a posture. The whole idea is we want to stabilize your mind. So before you stabilize your mind, you stable your body, because mind and body are interconnected. So you sit in a posture, and there are several postures, and people try to gain mastery over there. But Ahmed Shah says, mind you, Ravat hoy pure asan. Even if you are brave, you are an expert on all the asanas. Prem hoy to bethe siyasan. If there is love, then only you are going to rise on the siyasan, that is sit on the throne, or you will be successful in your spiritual journey if there is love. Otherwise, it's only an exercise, right? You may have some benefit, physical fitness. But here, the idea is that by following the asana, it is just a step towards fixing your mind. So if you fix your body and now asana is not compulsory, it is in the context of the time that this path is shown. In present days, we engage in meditation or ibadat the way we are comfortable. That's very important. So asana is indicating that it will help you to fix your mind. Then there's another ang that is called pranayam, that is science of breathing. So through breathing, you impact your inner being. So again, asana was physical, breathing is also physical. So from physical, you're moving to subtle level. So because they are interdependent. So there are 3 components to breathing. You breathe in, then you hold your breath, and then you bring out. So it's called in Sufism, who adopted this Naqshbandiyas, they adapt this pranayam science, and they say Sedam means 3 parts, three breaths. So what is this? Purak means you breathe in, and then you hold it. The idea is that by holding that air, and at that time you're doing deep breathing, which is not a superficial breathing, but diaphragmatic breathing, and that breath is prana. Prana means that's the vital energy. It again supposed to help to awaken your chakra, which is lying at the level of spine, or at the level of your navel, or at the level of heart. So at every level, this breath prana is held so that it helps activating. And then you do rechak, means you bring it out. Pratyara, there's another limb to the Ashtanga Yoga, where you are introverting your senses. So all the senses are going outside. We see with your eyes what is out there. We hear from our ears what is out there, and we want to touch what is out there. So all our senses are, even taste. We want to taste something which is outside. So Ahmed Shah says, Zok Panchu ka bana, the taste of these five senses. Bana means it is flowing out. Zok Panchu ka bana. Zok is taste. Your all five senses, organs are looking for something which is outside. Zok Panchu ka bana, bahar jave so bhitar lana. What is flowing outside, bring that in, and try to hear what is being heard there. No, there's Ohang Nad or Anhat Nad, which is again full of Ulat Bani. That's a music unstruck. There's a sound which is not struck, but there's music. Bina Meghja Ambar Baji. No, there are no clouds, but there's a lot of mystical music. You need to hear that. There's a lot of amrit flowing. You need to taste that. So engage all your energy. It's like a tortoise which brings all its appendages inside the body. So the whole pratyara is the effort to control your senses from flowing outside to bringing them inside. Then these are the three last steps of discipline: dharana, dhyan, and samadhi. Dharana is you fix an object. So you have fixed yourself, you have fixed your concentration, and now on the to concentrate, you have to fix an object. And that is the mantra or tantra, word or naksh, or whatever is given by your spiritual master, the guru or murshid. And it is not that this mantra and tantra are, they are open secret, everybody knows. But when it is given by the master, then it has that power. People may choose any word or any naksh, and it may help to a certain extent. But when a master has given that word, then it has a grace, it has a power which is unique. So dharana is the next step, where you seek a spiritual guru, and he gives you diksha, or he initiates into the path. He enrolls you into it. He invites you and guides you. And the start thing is he gives you the word. And for that, Ahmed Shah says, I am ready to sacrifice my whole being. Ahmed ta ke naam par sadke karu sharir. Why? Because that is the maram, that is the essence, which is so serious, gambhir. Ahmed take naam par satke karu sharir. Then you have the word, you do concentration. That is your dhyan. So incessant concentration. What happens when you uh, focus your energy at one point is, it's like, it works like, say, a crude example of magnifying glass. You put a magnifying glass and take the rays of the sun. What is happening? All the sun rays are focused at one point, and then you put a paper. So all the sun rays which were scattered, now they are concentrated at one point, and it may happen that the paper may burn. That's the power of the rays. And as an analogy here, the power of the thought or power of your concentration on the Isme Azam is such that you are flowing. Trikuti court mein lashkar jode. You have engaged your lashkar, that is your army of your thought on Trikuti, meaning this Agnya Chakra. Sahaje Sahaj Banka Gat Tode. Sahaj is very naturally, Sahaje Sahaj. Asani se, no, very easily, coolly. Banka is very difficult or crooked. Gad is the fort. So you are able to conquer that fort very easily by concentrating, that is doing dhyan. And when that dhyana is completely unbreakable, as they give example of flow of oil, there's no break in it. It's a continuous flow of your concentration. Then you reach a blissful state of fana and baka. You annihilate yourself, and then you are a very different, transformed individual, and that's part of the gnosis. So we'll spend a few minutes on the last part, that is gnosis or spiritual experience. There are various yogic phenomena explained here. We did touch upon that. You will start experiencing sukhmana jo hai, zaruri sukhmana jo hai. Pive amrit man kare thanda. You are now partaking of the amrit, and your mind is thanda, is blissful. Tab khele ek hi brahmanda. And at that stage, there's only one brahmanda, meaning there's only Brahman, there's only one reality. Mad mad mati dhyansu or sakhad bhai hai preet. In that level of intoxication, spiritual ecstasy, sakhat bhai hai preet, your love gets more intense. Sakhat means it intensifies. Bhai hai preet. Ahmad aise satka swad lahe atit. He says only a rare sage will reach that stage of beatitude or stage of attainment, where the grace of the master gets complete. Sadguru Krupa hui nij sampurna. The grace of the master gets fulfilled or perfected, completed. Then what happens? Khalak khalak doye ek hi spurna. The creator and the created become of the one origin. There's no duality. That's what we started with. There's only one reality, absolute reality. So through love, through meditation, now you have risen yourself to such a level that invited the grace of the master. Now this tells us that grace is a critical factor here. It's not your right. It's not your right that because you are meditating, you have to be blessed. You are seeking. When the grace is perfected, Sadguru Krupa hui nuj sampurna, khalak khalak doye ek hi spurna, and then the khalak and the khalik become of the. So that's the stage of realization one reaches. The metamorphosis, the examples that are given in Sī-Ḥarfī is one of a metamorphosis of a caterpillar to butterfly or to worm to wasp. We know this. How butterfly gets scientific theory may vary a little, but this is the understanding of the time when the text was written. So what happens? The butterfly gives out, or the wasp gives out eggs. Eggs turn into lava. Lava turns out into pupa, and from pupa there's a whole cover, and that cover is broken by the adult one, and actually that's like pricking the pupa to see that the young one is able to come out. So that's the metamorphosis. That's one symbol. We'll read the poem after this. And there's another symbol that is used is of alchemy, of transmutation of iron into gold. So just with a touch of paras or elixir or philosopher's stone, what happens? The iron, which is a base metal, that or copper, transforms into gold. Sadguru Paras, Munivar Tramba, Bhete to Soban Hoy. The true master is Sadgur, and when they meet, then what happens? One reaches the stage of gold. And that stage is beyond paradise. It's a blissful stage. And Ahmed Shāh says, if I'm able to reach to that, then I don't care for paradise. Tab Ahmed Vaikunt ki asha kare balai. Only the ghost would want to crave for paradise. Quickly we'll run through that stanza so that it summarizes the whole thing. Paras parse kare ang sohang. I'll read only the translation part. The very touch of the elixir turns the body into gold. It transmutes the evil soul to its very own color. So that's the whole transformation taking place. One who annihilates the body and his life, deha jiv fanakar dale, deh and jiv, you are actually putting your total being into it. You are not leaving any stone unturned to seek that. Then what happens? He enjoys. Ek hi Brahma hai apas male. So in that Brahman, you are annihilated, or you would read it aap samale or apas male. These two entities are together, up and that, or aap samale. You have so just by little shift of letter, there are two interpretations possible. So either it is enjoys himself in the unique Brahman, with the unique Brahman, or he annihilates himself into that. So there is no existence left. In this very life, one who annihilates his self, in this very life, he realizes his own self. When the grace of the true master reaches its culmination, the creator and the creator are of the very same origination. We did this. He who has achieved liberation in this very life witnesses his soul, is able to see his own soul, but he who attains ultimate liberation witnesses soul every moment. Now, at that highest level, at that peak, you are able to have that certainty at every moment. जीवन मुक्त जीव अपना देखे, महामुक्ता जीव पल पल पेखे. Every pal, every moment, he is living that experience. Nobody can take away that experience. He is so certain about it because he is living 24/7 in that. Akhand vaku hai nij ananda. His anand is akhand, unbreakable. Nij, it's own. It's not from outside. It's not pleasure. It is something which has been created, nij, from inside. Hai ananda. Ananda, sohi jo paramananda. The bliss which is transcendent, most transcendent bliss. So Anand itself is beyond the Sukh and Dukh, which is beyond happiness and sadness, bliss itself, Anand itself. But here Ahmed Shah says, Ananda sohi jo paramananda. Paramananda means that which is ultimate. Guru Chela na raya koi. There remains neither master nor disciple. He alone remains due to whom the universe exists. The creator is the one and the many. The master and disciple distinction all are annihilated in him. In that, at that level of spiritual experience, the master and disciple are the same. In self-annihilation, one attains the essence. He then witnesses and also reveals, He I am, Soham Brahm. The line which he started with. He says that at that peak, he is able to not only experience, he witnesses, and also it is revealed to the others, also to the outsiders. Although one is not often advised not to reveal that secret. But no, Mansur could not hold it, and then the Upanishads don't hold it, and they say Aham Brahmasmi. But then there is a price also. People may not always understand. No, there's because the world is different. The vehicle has to be different. People will laugh at you if you ride on the earth on a wooden horse, because only kids would ride on wooden horse. So you will be counted as a mad person or a childish. See the sport of worm and the wasp. So attains disciple from the master. This is the metamorphosis, worm and wasp. ઈળ ભમરી ચટકોસ, ઈળ ભમરી દોઈ પટુંતરો અને લઈ મંદિર માં આવ્યા. ભમરી ઈળ ચટકો ભમરી no સહે. When the eel or the caterpillar is able to take the pain or the pricks of the master, then the young one grows into an adult. So that is the metamorphosis. So the last line, oh, you alone are my true Lord, you the beloved. Re tu hi mara sacha saiya, piju tu hui. Sahje sheetal mahal mein, jo sanmukh piyu ji paaye re. In that sahaj, sheetal is very cool. If spontaneously in the palace of tranquility, that is bliss, the beloved is seen face to face. If I see my beloved face to face in that level of ecstasy, in that level of what is called samadhi. Samadhi is not adi, vyadi, beyond all worries. Ahmed says, Ahmed, tab vaikunt ki asha kare balai. Ahmed says, then paradise only the evil spirit will entertain the desire. So this is the whole purpose of exploring, that ultimately we are seeking to get some inspiration. So to summarize, I would not go into all that, but my whole purpose of journey with Sī-Ḥarfī is that it is always so inspiring, so motivating, that you feel charged that how can one attain the state of beyond paradise, what Rabia Basri used to call that, oh God, if I'm praying, if I'm worshipping you due to the fear of hell, then put me in the fire of hell. And if I'm worshipping you, I'm seeking you for the desire or the greed of paradise, then make that paradise haram for me. Forbid me from that. But if I'm seeking your countenance, if I'm seeking your didar, your darshan, then, oh Lord, please give me your countenance. And this is what the ultimate objective is. Inshallah, I hope this has helped us to gain some inspiration, some path, and some insight into it. Okay, so do we have time for question answers or anything, Meera? I think we could conclude here.
Yes, yes. First of all, thank you, Al-waez, for such an insightful and engaging talk. It was indeed a pleasure to listen to you.
Thank you.
As we begin our question and answer session, kindly write your questions to co-host Imran Basram. Thank you. And I already have some questions, and let me begin by asking the first one.
Yes, please.
One of the audience members have asked, in discussing the cosmology, where does the Imam fit in?
Okay. Now, to start with, the first question is that which perspective, which lens you're wearing, the scientific lens, or are you wearing the religious lens? And then the second question would be which religion you're talking, because cosmology is in every religion, right? So if you're talking about Imam, then we are seeing from the Ismaili lens, right? And here, as I tried to explain, the Imam fits into the tree symbolism, and also we had this Hidayah, right? So this is Alam Amr and Alam Khalq. In between this, the plane of Hidayah where Nubuwa and Imama comes, and that is the manifestation of the Nur. And then Imam guides the Murid, gives the path. So Diya Updesh Padaya now. So that is all through Imam, right? I don't know if there's some more clarification required.
I think perhaps, and I may be wrong. I think when you talked about cosmology, in the sense that you talked about the pre-existent of the Panjatan Park.
Yes.
I suppose to that is the audience member probably is alluding to that. I'm not quite sure, but perhaps.
Possible. I've written here. They say you can use any term. Right? The normative order is the plane of Hidayat, or you use the word Mazhar, or you Panchtan Park, or Nubuwa, or Imam, Sadgur, Murshid. All these. This is basically the world joining the Alam Khalq and Alam Amra. Imam Sultan Shah has said that that Imam is અમે આવ્યા છીએ સાત આસમાનથી તમારા જીવનો છુટકારો કરવાનો. We have come from that plane for the liberation of your soul. So Imam is the guide who shows you the path, who gives you the details of the path, and once you follow, you get closer and closer, and he takes you to he, which is beyond all, right? So that is how the Imam or Murshid is situated, as a manifestation, as a guide.
Thank you, Al-waez. One other question I have is, in some Ginans, there is a... Sorry, before that question, let me ask this one. The peers discuss Lakh Chorasi and Afera. How do we make sense of this from an Ismaili or an Islamic perspective?
It's a good and very involved question. It will require long lecture, if not several. But this is something there in the Ginans in several places, and this issue has been dealt with in Ismaili literature in various times, in various ways. We have to first try and understand we are talking of something which is very metaphysical, right? And there is no empirical although these days there are discussions where people have empirical or scientific evidence to establish the past life. So it's a question which is beyond mind, beyond the physical realm. And one simple explanation one could start with, Ibn Arabi, not Ibn Arabi, Al-Biruni, who worked in India. And his book, Kitab al-Hind, he wrote about religions of India. And he deals with this concept of rebirth. Incidentally, Sī-Ḥarfī also has at one line, Karam Kand Chaurasi Khande, that all the karam or the karmas of Chaurasi is Lakh Chaurasi perhaps. Khande means you are able to destroy, you are able to cancel out the carry forwards of the past life. So assuming there is a notion of past life. So Al-Biruni says that just as in Islam, Shahada is the kalima, the key. He uses the word shibboleth. So there are shibboleths in various religions which define a given religion. Like Sabbath is a shibboleth in Judaism. Similarly, Shahada is a shibboleth or the key in Islam. He says in Indian religion or in Indian context, this notion of rebirth, notion of being born again and again, till you gain liberation, and at every age you are acquiring the karma, although body is left, but your soul carries that, and according to that you are born. Now he says this is a shibboleth in Indian milieu. Now what is reality is a notion beyond us. But when a preacher preaches, the preacher may consciously or unconsciously, because the preacher is part of is integral part of that culture. So he may not be always doing consciously that, yes, these people believe in rebirth, so let me talk about rebirth. No, it could be, but it could be that he is part of that culture. He's the product of that culture, and therefore he's thinking from that optic. So whether you are hearing the bird to say lak lak or alhamdulillah or mulk laka or praise be to you or Ram Sitaram, or you are hearing aloo potato, it is based on your optic, your lens that you're wearing. So Al-Biruni says this rebirth notion is a shibboleth in this Indian milieu, and we find Sufis adopting that. Ismail is talking about it, but it's a separate subject by itself, because I've done some study of rebirth in Ginans. It's not very simple. It's not very plain. There are a lot of nuances to how peers have elaborated on it. And there is one line I would, sort of parameter I would like to submit to reflect. Peers have, when they deal with the notion of rebirth, say, is one Ginan, Peer says, I'm just collecting from my memory now, that you are born as a king, or you are born as a minister, or you are born as a common man. And then there's a hierarchy of social hierarchy in Indian context. And then he says that in social hierarchy, after the king and the general people, you are born as Shudra, that is the lowest. And then you are born as an Ismaili. So there's a whole reverse thing, because in Indian milieu, what used to happen, that they had Shudra as the lowest, and Muslims were considered as Malech, meaning ugly people, someone who is even below the Malech. Now, peers in some of the Ginans reversed that order, and they said you are born as king, and then you born as minister, or then you rise and then you are born as Shudra, and after Shudra you are born as Ismail. Now the whole hierarchical order has been structured. I'm very sorry I'm getting into a topic which is not the the main focus of today. Maybe sometimes we can discuss on that. I have a section on this in my work about rebirth and the notion of how it has been dealt with in Fatimid time and how it got addressed here, and possible what are the possible ways of looking at it. But yes, it is there in Ginans, and that's where the whole idea of what is relevant to the time, what is the tool of the time, and the working conclusion that we have.
Thank you, sir. I have another question. In some
Yeah.
Ginans, there is a reference to the point between the eyebrows, Bhamar Gufa.
Yes.
Does this relate to the system of chakras that
Yes.
you have discussed?
Indeed. It is the Agna Chakra that we talked about, 7 chakras, right? See this chakras. So this is the Agna Chakra. Between two eyebrows, there's that's where the भमर गुफा ऊपर देखनता कहो कैसा गुण होए जगमग ज्योत जल हले वस्त नूरानी सोए. So what is happening, you focusing here your attention, your concentration, your meditation. Now there's no set path given, no, for the, if you're talking of how I should sit in Bhangi, I'm not giving any prescriptions here. The whatever is natural, the idea is to just concentrate on that both. But if you go by the yogic discipline or the Ginanic allusions, then we have this Bhamar Gufa Upar Dekhanta that you start focusing on here. And then the energy rises, assuming that you're already here. Because all centers are energy centers. And any center can be activated. These centers are, in yogic science, there's a science of chakras, the balancing the chakras. And each chakra has a special attribute, it has special color, it has special mantra for that, and it has special syllable for that, and it also connects with certain energy or certain power that you are going to achieve. We said aisa sadhu je bhariya art. That is one interpretation, one context of 8 is the 8 angas, that is 8 paths. Another is there are 8 siddhis, 8 achievements, 8 attainments that you get. And if your Vishuddha chakra or the throat level is powerful, then you gain a lot of control on public speaking, they say. So each chakra, your heart chakra, the notion of love. But here, if you take Agna Chakra is the chakra of gnosis. And yes, in Ginan, we have several references, and that's easier. In some chakras, we say you start from here, or you start from navel, and Tethi Unche Radesh ke Chadwa Uchare. You need to rise little higher and go ultimately to Agnya Chakra. So peers have maybe simplified the way that you start here, because ultimately you want to go here and then rise up. But you focus on the word, on the mystical syllable given to you. That's the whole idea. Yes, of course, it relates to the chakra, Agnya Chakra.
Thank you, sir. I have another question. Ishme Azam is central to the teaching of this peer. This is a question from an audience. Ishme Azam is central to the teaching of this peer. Did he visit the Imam to get this mantra or tantra?
Now, Isam means name, Azam means big name. Usually, Asmaul Husna are taken as the biggest or the highest name, and Allah is one of theirs. And then there are 99 names, although there are more than 99 if you go through the Quran and the Hadith. So there's a whole list. The point here is that when you connect with your guru, when you connect with your master, now how do you connect? In our modern day notion, we know one aspect of connecting with Imam, that when Imam comes, he gives didar, and that's the physical didar, right? The physical mulaqat. But there have been Jamaats who have not had the contact in a physical world level for centuries. So where they're totally away from it. So this is all we are now into the domain of conjecture, in the domain of history going to meta history, or thinking beyond the physical time and space. One way is that yes, there were peers who were sent, where the connecting link between the imam and the jamaat there, and they were authorized to have. But here, if the question is how did peer get it, so it's anybody's guess, and anybody's guess is as good as mine or others. Historically, some peers have visited imams, and imam may have blessed them. But then there is also another level of initiation, another level of connection, and that is how it operates in Sufism. That is how it operates in various mystical traditions. That somehow the murid finds the way. It's not only the thirsty who is seeking the water, but water is as much, Rumi says, seeking the thirsty person, and there is possibility. It's one can only conjecture.
Thank you,
I don't know
sir.
if,
One other question. One
uh-huh.
other question is, can you shed some light on Sī-Ḥarfī by Wasif Ali Wasif, if you're
I've not
aware of that?
studied that. Is it something which is there on YouTube recently? I don't know. There is one that name sounds well, but I frankly I can't recall. There are hundreds of CRFs, so I don't know when was Wasif and what is the content. I would love to study that if somebody can provide it.
Thank
There are
you. I have
classical
another question.
CRFs and more. Yes, please.
Al-waez Keshwani, this is a question I would like to ask you. Your painstaking analysis in bringing forward the depth of some of the themes of Sī-Ḥarfī is commendable.
Thank you.
The religious, spiritual language and the content of the text is complex and may not have been easy to decipher. I'm wondering if you looked at various translations and were there any major differences in their interpretations of the verses of Sī-Ḥarfī?
Yes, indeed. Actually, I was very fortunate, as I shared in the last session, that I had the opportunity to study Sī-Ḥarfī with some of the senior scholars and Vaizin, and who have been spiritualists in their practice, and that was very commendable for me to get that opportunity. I was very lucky. But there and then there are some books also, some written works also translated. The whole Sī-Ḥarfī has been translated into Gujarati. Some are done in English, in Urdu. Examining those translations, I did find some difficulties. Say, for example, the first opening line, Brahm Sohang Satchit Anand, Maram Ohang Jitit Bhainan. Now, all the translations that I have studied, they give some interpretation which is connected, but perhaps not accurate to the text. So Soham is he, I am, that I am. So Brahm Soham is I am that Brahman. It's very, once you know the meaning of Brahm and the meaning of Soham, then you can easily decipher that. But because Soham, Sohang, the way it is used, is not a very common word, and it is applied to the breathing, that when you breathe, you are breathing in one part and you are breathing out another part. So it is used, Soham is used as a mystical syllable that you breathe in Sa, Hum. So when they translate, they connected that Brahman is part of your breath, which makes sense, because Saham is also associated with the pranayam or with the breathing part. But if you take the word itself, then it gives you a very different meaning. So Brahm Soham, this was one very, I haven't come across any interpretation or translation which would give you that meaning, which I thought is very similar to how other individuals who have studied poems of Sants and Kabir and all that whole group of mystics. They would not Soham, they will immediately come to He I Am. But there's another very interesting line I referred to about Toy Tayar Hoi Kele Kela, Nagnath Pete Patala, Bambi Ulat Sarap Kukhave. Now, this verse really troubled me for a long, long time. I was, after this Bambi, what is this Bambi? No, nobody was able to explain. And the traditional meaning was, and is rather, that it is, Bambi means, they say it is mungus, and Sarap is snake. So somehow Bambi is translated as mungus, another animal, because mungus and snake have a very interesting relationship. What happens that mungus picks the snake and plays with it, and then it kills. So there is a context which has been interposed or imposed onto the poem here, and the meaning that they give is toy tayar hoy khele khela. First of all, they will read toy as tayar, meaning with te, getting ready, not as bird, which is okay, because that toy is not a distinction that the non-Arabic person or non-Urdu person would have. So being like a bird, you engage in the game. Nagnath Pethe Patala, that Kundalini Shakti is seated at the base. Bambi Ulat Sarapku Khave. So if you bring in mongoose, then the interpretation is mongoose kills the snake, meaning you kill your nafse amara, you kill your thoughts, which is interesting. But text doesn't say that. Text says Bambi Ulat Sarapku Khave, which is an Ulat Bani, that the chakra which is actually giving shelter to that Kundalini Shakti or the serpent power, that chakra itself is absorbing it. It's taking it inside. The whole juice as if is taken up. Why is it taken? So that it is transmitted upward. That's the journey. And that meaning I only could realize after studying the lot of yogic science and yogic interpretation and yes, Sant Sahitya in Hindi, in Marathi, and other literature. So that was there are two examples quickly. Yeah. There are many. Yeah. Yes, please.
Thank you so much, Al-waez Keshwani. I'm afraid that's all the time we have because we've run out of time. And I know there have been several questions still, but I'm afraid we can't take it anymore. There are too many.
Yeah, inshallah,
And
someday
we've-
we'll do productive, the full reading of the text, as Dr. Ismail would say, read line by line. But thank you. This was a
Thank you
thematic
so much, Al-waez
approach.
Keshwani. This brings us to the end of our Q&A session today, and I'd appreciate if everybody can fill in a short feedback form, which is pasted in the chat box. Thank you, Imran, for pasting it.
Just a word, if I can add here, if you finished.
Please, yeah. Yes, please go ahead.
Yeah, I again would like to take this opportunity to express my humble gratitude, acknowledgement to you all for the Association for Study of Ginans, to giving this opportunity, which actually revived my journey, which started at the IIS and Institute of Ismaili Studies, where Dr. Farooq was very instrumental in really encouraging me to take this work further. And of course, then several scholars, Dr. Ismail and Dr. Nanji and Professor Ali Asani. I've studied with him for my Harvard degree. So many people have really contributed to my understanding. And I have studied, while studying with the participants in various programs, I gained many insights. And I thank you one and all for that. Thank you.
Thank you, Pyarali sir. On behalf of the Association for the Study of Ginans, let me take this opportunity to say a heartfelt thank you to you, Al-waez Keshwani, for such a stimulating and insightful talk. We enjoyed listening to you, and we have gained a much better understanding of Sī-Ḥarfī thanks to your hard work, all your hard work. We wish you all the best and look forward to your book on Sī-Ḥarfī. Incidentally, there was a question about, is your book coming out on Sī-Ḥarfī?
Oh, inshallah. Yes. Yeah, yeah. Pray for me.
Thank you,
Inshallah.
Ali Madad.
Thank you.
Inshallah,
Thank you.
inshallah. A very big thank you to our IT team and the design team, Altaf Bulani, Alina Ahmed, as well as Imran Visram for volunteering their time and expertise. Many thanks to our chairman, Shiraz Pradhan, who works tirelessly behind the scenes. Finally, a
Yes,
special
yes.
thank you to all of you, audience who are listening to us from across the world. Thank you for joining Ginan Insights. Please be on a lookout for our future Ginan Insights talks on Facebook, and also our webinar recording on our ASC YouTube channel. You will also find the past Ginan Insights recording on YouTube. Please visit our ASC website. Thank you all and have a wonderful morning, afternoon, or evening. Ya Al-waez.
अलिफ अविनाशी देवा